uh, tap the person's knee beside you and say, I'm happy I'm sitting beside you. Just tell them right there. Just tap it. Go ahead and tell them, please never tap my knee again. Don't ever do that. That's uncomfortable. This is the point in the talk where I'm supposed to insert an exaggerated statement about Athens to let you know that I am familiar with this hood. I know where you guys are at. I mean, I was hungrier earlier this afternoon, and I said, where am I going to eat? And I said, geez, I feel like I'm on my last resort. And what will I want to do but get me some white chocolate cheesecake from the some of you don't, it's not the white chocolate cheesecake. That's not what you order? Okay. And I was born and raised in Ohio, and I'm a Buckeyes fan. Go Bucks. I know, exactly. And so, born and raised in Ohio State fan, really, really great. I have to say there's great tradition, but I was brought down here about 3 years ago. I should say brought up here because I live in Atlanta. I've been in Atlanta now for about a decade, and I came up with some friends to watch a Georgia Bulldogs game. And I just remember this. I just remember Georgia, go. Okay, no, I don't think I remember that part. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah. And it's great. It's good to be back. I always love it. If this is our first time meeting, my name is Joseph Sojourner. I pastor a gathering down at the Pinewood Movie Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. But I'm always excited to get a chance to come back here, hang out with you all, and get to talk to you about something that's pretty incredible. And I loved listening to Gerald. First off, when Gerald called me and told me that he wanted to do something like this, he said, listen, I don't want to do a conference. I want to be able to listen to this generation who wants to go out and serve, but oftentimes isn't given the opportunity. And I said, okay, so what do you want to do? He said, I want to give them a chance to sit, think about God, reflect on his goodness, and then hit the streets and literally be the light. And I can't tell you how many people from that day forward told him, I'm not sure you can find any young people that are going to be willing to pay to work. That's what a lot of people say. They're not going to want to pay to work, but he truly said, no. There's a generation that is willing to give a little bit out of their pocket, but give a whole lot more out of their heart. So I want y'all to give it up for yourselves, because you sitting here is the first ever confirmation that there are people here in Athens that is willing to do that. So back to myself, not back to myself. That sounded really, really cocky. And I promise you, that is not the kind of person I am. I just wanted to kind of get back on to where I was in the notes. That's all I'm really trying to say. But back on to what he was saying. How about that? Back to what Gerald was saying just a little bit ago. For God so loved. And he said that we are children of God, children of the Most High. And I love that because it's a perfect launching pad for what I get to talk to you about. Because now you've looked at yourself in the mirror. Maybe you've been looking at yourself in the mirror. You're like, I got that down. I'm a child of God. I'm all that. Okay, that's maybe what you tell yourself every morning. I'm all that. Okay, daughter of God. Son of the Most High. But what does that mean in the world today? That's the question I'm challenged with, because he said, Joe, you're going to talk about unity and you got 30 minutes. I said, okay, that's great. In the world we live in today, I have to try to talk to you about unity, which simply me saying the words, some of you already are like, okay, heard this 100 times. Because no matter what we do, when we turn on the television, when we turn on our music, we hear people saying everybody just needs to love more, everybody just needs to get along, everybody just needs to stop bullying, everybody needs to stop doing this and really start accepting people and understanding people's stories. And yet, it seems as if we all have this tension in our hearts that as we're looking around us in America, we're kind of like, it doesn't seem like it's working all the time. In fact, studies and stats would show that we're actually becoming more and more separated. That the algorithms you guys are bought into, that you guys are born into, I should say, are literally pulling you away from each other, the most connected yet the most isolated. We always have heard that, right? And so as we go forward in this world, as we go forward in this beautiful country, we find ourselves wrestling with this tension that Jesus called us to say that we are children of the Most High. I am a child of God, meant to love others just as he commanded. And yet we live in this country, we live in this world that seems to be pulling us away, where everybody finds it easier just to say, here's what's wrong with you. No, I know what's going on. I know the real truth. I know exactly what you need to fix. And that's what you all are born into. It's crazy, right? Because when you're kids, when you really think about it, we were little kids and and they were teaching us in our history class, and they said, it's the United States of America. And you felt proud about that. You're like, Paul Revere just saddled off and going on. And man, it's an awesome thing. You get older, right? You start growing and you're like, now, did Paul Revere really do what they said? He did, and all of a sudden these things start looking and you're like, hey, this isn't adding up to what we were told when we were kids. It was the United States of America, but I turn on the news and I walk the streets and I listen to my friends and it sounds more like the divided states of America. That's what you gotta walk every single day. A divided state that looks at you oftentimes and says, hey, you're no different than them. That you judge people just the way I judge people. That the church could be the most judgmental place of all, that the church can't even get along on the same page. And as you're operating in a world like that, how are we supposed to love the way that Jesus called us to love? Well, the first thing we have to look at, what exactly is it that's dividing us? What exactly is it? Because if I only had 30 minutes, as I prayed over this for weeks on end and weeks on end, I said, what could I say to hopefully get them to see this through the perspective and the lens of heaven? My hope is over these next few minutes, you'll listen and you'll say, I think I'm beginning to see it the way Jesus saw it. I think I'm getting to understand now exactly how we're supposed to move in order to be children of God who are able to love people in ways that we could not possibly love by ourselves. So in order to do that, I need us to just be real, okay? Everybody say, I'm real. Everybody say it. Okay, that was lackluster, but it's okay. Now I want you to look at the person next to you. Just say we're family to them. Just say we're family, right? Just tell them. Okay, you guys are still sleepy. Early birds, raise your hand. Who are the early birds in the room? Early birds, raise it. Okay. Night owls, make some noise. Night owls in the room. Night owls. Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Back to the task at hand. Back to the lecture at hand. Hey. All right. Look at them and tell them something about yourself that might make it difficult to love you. I know. That's very transparent. You say, I don't know if I know this person well enough. No, but let's start with that. Rather than you saying somebody you don't like in the world we live in, because all of us, if I asked you, think of one person you don't like, and so you say, this person right down the road. No, I'm not going to do that. I want us to take some ownership right out the gate. I want you to tell the person next to you right now, I'm going to count down from 5, and I want you to tell them one thing about yourself that's like, honestly, I could be difficult because of this, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tell them right now. Look, people are nodding. They're like, yeah. Conversations are starting right now. You're like, oh my goodness, I've been wanting to talk to you about that. You think we could put a pin in that? Yeah, I have been thinking that. I just haven't been willing to say that. I'm a little bit passionate. I'm a little bit quirky. I'm a bit anal about certain things somebody might say. You know, I want to be able to just go with the flow. I want to be able to see life the way you see life, but for some odd reason, I just can't seem to do it. And rather than look at what we don't like in other people, I always say, well, the first thing we can do is hopefully start with ourselves. Because no one in this room is immune. No one in this room is perfect. Sorry to burst your bubble. Every single one of us has something that makes it difficult for others to love us, which is why we start with extending grace towards others. But that's just the start. Because what's difficult after that is just what I said a second ago. This world isn't quite the way we pictured it. And despite how well we know ourselves, nothing seems to line up. And I'll share this story with you because here's what I'm talking about. When I was a kid, I was just a little kid. I was really rambunctious. I was very adventurous, and so I'd always go out the house and I'd do all these stunts. In fact, I once put together a circus in my backyard, and my goal was to make some extra cash. I should say, come on down to the circus. I've got 3 tricks I want to perform, but it costs $2 to get in. I was trying to get that money, okay? So my neighbors all came in. It was a really big hit. I was surprised that so many people came out. I remember doing all these tricks, and I was like jumping from tree to tree, which was really like a limb to a limb, but I was just showing them. I'm like, I am an acrobat, okay? Check it out. Okay, tip jar. And I remember everyone was cheering me on, and my mom was always like, he's just the very, very adventurous one. And as time would go on, I'd do trick after trick, and for every 100 tricks, one would, of course, go wrong, right? And so I remember this one time I was outside, I was practicing a new trick, and I jumped, and I ended up slipping, and my knee hit this rock, and it scraped extremely bad. And I mean, blood was running. It was gushing out in liters almost. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but it was scraped at least. It was definitely scraped. And I remember feeling excruciating pain right then, and I said, this is it. This is the end of my story, and it happens right here in my backyard. And so I remember I limped into the house, and of course, what do you do when you're a little kid? You're screaming at the top of your lungs, and who are you screaming for? Exactly. It's like y'all were there. And I was screaming. I said, "Ma!" And my mom was used to this because, like I said, I'm an extremely passionate kid. I said, "Ma!" And so she came out, And she's looking at me, and I said, I think this is it. This is the one. Give me a hug. It's been good knowing you. I got to go now, back to Jesus. My mom comes over, as she always did. She cleans up the wound like only a mama could. Goes on and puts that Neosporin on it because she didn't like that spray. It burned a little bit, so I was like, don't put the spray, the Neosporin. Goodness gracious. You know I'm tender. And so she put it on. She put the little Band-Aid on, and she'd always tap the Band-Aid twice. I like the little tap. She did it. Good to go. Come on, y'all know. You're like, oh, that's a mama's touch. And then she'd do this thing, and it might be awkward, but some of y'all moms did it. She'd lean down to my knee, right with her lips. What do you think she'd do? She'd kiss. Oh, wow, somebody. I thank you very much. It was a bit intimate. It was more intimate than I thought it would be, but because she knew this truth. What was the truth that mom knew when she kissed it? She said, kiss it and it'll feel better. And I remember just being like, thank you so much. It feels a little bit better. I think it's walkable. It is walkable now. And my mom says this story, and I don't really remember this story, but my mom loves to tell it. She said, one time you're out with your twin brother, Justin and Joseph, so we're hanging out and we're doing some tricks, and I get Justin to do some extra tricks right outside in our driveway. And so he's got this little bike. We had our two Huffies, and so Justin flips and does the trick, and Justin ends up flipping over the handlebars. And he ends up scraping like his whole side, but definitely his elbow, and so his elbow was bleeding. And of course, Justin in this moment, it was much worse than my almost fractured leg that almost lost the limb, but his was a whole elbow. And so I remember he started screaming, and my mom said she's looking out the window at us, and she said, you looked at your twin brother, and he was screaming in the moment, and it's as if you didn't know what to do. And I said, I think I was looking for my essentials. I didn't know what I could do in this moment. And she said, and you began to walk to him. And I thought to myself, no, Joseph. No, Joseph. And in the middle of Justin screaming with blood running down his arm and me just getting worked up in the moment and I not knowing what to do, not having any Band-Aids, really being out of reach from the Neosporin and all the pressure of the world on me right now, knowing I had to save my brother, I just wanted to take a little bit of that pain out of him. She said, you grabbed his arm, you pulled it to you, and you kissed it. And she said, Justin immediately stopped crying and looked at you, shocked. And she said, all of that pain, my mom tells us so good, all of that pain shifted to rage. And he ran in the house and said, Mom, Joseph kissed my arm. And I said, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any Neosporin. I didn't have any Band-Aids. All I had was these lips. Kiss it and make it feel better. And my mom said, you were so distraught. And she said, I looked at you and I said, Joseph, you can't kiss it and make it feel better. And I said, but you always say kiss it and make it feel better. I don't understand. She said, a mama can kiss it, but you can't kiss it. And I said, that. And then when mom tells me that story, I said, well, then that was the first time I think I realized that you've been lying to me most of my childhood because you had left out the other half of the truth. Kiss it and make it feel better, but only a mama's kiss can make it feel better. My kiss can't make it feel better, despite how great I think those lips were. When I was 17 years old, my first girlfriend, I said, come on, feel better. I don't know where that one came from. Listen, just get back on track. Lies we tell ourselves. Lies we're told by our families. And when I began to think about that, I began to realize, isn't that kind of what we're walking through today? Isn't that exactly what divides America? As we look at this person and say, you got it all wrong. You thought you knew. But you don't know the second half. You don't exactly know my side of the story. And if you knew my side of the story, you'd be on my side of the fence. And that's why you're wrong and I'm right. That's why no matter what you think, you believe wrong, you look wrong, you think the wrong way because you're to this and you're to that. And we oftentimes look at each other and we're trying to put the pieces together because if we really look at the human experience, we're all just searching for truth. But what's difficult about our generation is we're looking for truth and we're born in this information age saturated with facts. I need to start by saying this. There's a difference between facts and there's a difference from truth. Facts are not truth. And oftentimes you will be drawn into arguments. You as a believer, you as a child of God will be drawn into arguments about the facts. And the facts are simply what you think are true. It's like, hey, listen, I always give this illustration. If I had a headache and I went to the drugstore because it's been pounding all day for 7 hours and I get me some Advil and I take the Advil, then nobody can tell me I didn't have a headache. It's a fact. I have a headache. It's pounding. It's it's hurting me a lot. So I took these Advil. But it keeps on pounding over and over and over for 24 more hours. So finally I said, I got to go to the doctor. This Advil's not working. And they said, what's wrong? I said, I have a headache. That's a fact. I can't change that. That's the truth. But then you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, no, it's not a headache. You're like, no, definitely it's a headache. He said, no, it's a tumor. That's the truth. The fact is different than the truth. The truth is bigger than us. I need you to see this first. The truth cannot be limited to our own perspectives. The truth is not limited to the size of ourselves. I thought I had a headache, but he says, no, there's something bigger going on than you think. And so as we're living in this world where people are trying to draw us into these trivial arguments about the facts, misinformation, fake news, or whatever it may be when we hear it all around, we have to understand, what do we need to mute and what's the truth? Facts are facts, but there's something that's greater than all the facts. There's something that's greater that we're supposed to keep our eyes fixed on. What's crazy is if you went to a UGA Bulldogs game and everybody got on the field and everybody just kind of went to wherever they wanted to on the field and nobody lined up, you'd probably be like, what's going on? And then they did hike and everybody just ran any direction they wanted to run, just ran. You ran this way and this person ran this way. You'd be like, this is the worst game ever, right? Everyone's just running and doing whatever they want to do in life. Isn't that what we're told to do, though? Do you? Fact. If everybody just did themselves, this world would be a better place. Fact. And yet, if we went to a game and everybody was running whatever their own direction is, we'd be like, we don't understand the purpose of this. And now I'm turning somewhere. I need you to follow me. You can't just run anywhere you want to run. And yet we're striving to find the truth while we're saturated with information, and information that contrasts that information, and information that contradicts that information. And so while you Google this, I Googled that, and therefore we end up being pulled apart because we're being pulled apart by the facts when in the end we're supposed to be focused on the truth. But everyone's running their own way on the field. And that's America. No, that's the world we're born into. Love them. Sounds easy, right? I just got to catch him first. He's all the way downfield, and I'm on the line of scrimmage. How do we do this? Well, the reality is this. As we begin looking at unity, a lot of people say everyone just needs to be the same. Everyone needs to be lined up on the same page. Make sure that everyone is kind of dressed the same. We're kind of acting the same. Or a lot of us begin to think unity is all of us just getting on the same page. And I say, no, here's the thing about the line of scrimmage. All these players are standing on the line of scrimmage. They all have stories. They all look different. Many times they're different races. But the only difference is they're all facing the same direction. That's it. They're facing the same direction because they're all chasing the common goal. They have purpose. I need you to hear me when I say this. Unity is not persons. Unity is purpose. And oftentimes we think unity is all about us. And I said, no. Unity is understanding that us will be different, but it's purpose that's the greater truth. No matter what you try to be, no matter what I try to be, we'll continue to fall short. I can't be everything we need for unity. And yet, if we simply all aligned on one common purpose, if the church simply kept their eyes on one common goal and we understood what we're driving to, well, then people will begin to say, oh, look at that team play. Why? It's not because they're all the same. Listen to me, y'all. It's not because they're all in the same Christian organization at UGA. It's not because they all went to the same denomination and grew up in the same town. No, it's because they're all facing one common goal. Unity is not sameness. Unity is distinctiveness running in the same direction towards purpose. I need you to hear me. It's unity, it's distinctiveness running in the same direction towards purpose. And as Jesus walked this planet, he surrounded himself with people that were completely different than him. And he said, listen, I just want to champion y'all for one thing, unity. Unity, and we see him love all, love all, love all. And these men are literally some lawyers, some fishermen. And they're like, we're totally different spectrums. And yet he said, we will continue to go this way. Why? Because we're all chasing one common goal. But here's what's crazy. Because oftentimes people will be like, the devil is a lie. And I love it. Not today, Satan. All the catchphrases we say. But the Bible calls him the author of confusion. And so if you wanted to separate a family, assuming we're all one, assuming we're all children of God, how do you separate a family? If I wanted to come into your home, separate your mom, your brother, your sister, the ones that you're born with, how would I do it? By beginning to spread misinformation about each of you. And I begin to say, well, you know, this person thought this about you. Well, you know, your whole life this person's been doing this. And you'd begin to say, you're not who I thought you were. Wait a minute, you're supposed to be this. And I'd begin to tear a wedge. And what once was family, a house divided will always, what? Fall. And so when we're looking at how Satan moves when it comes to how he disrupts and breaks us apart, it's a simple saying of, hey, if I can get them all focused on these facts that don't really matter and keep their eyes away from the truth so that they're not all lined up as different as they are, chasing the one common goal, and that is this man Jesus did something special. If I can just get them bickering amongst each other and saying, oh, she knows she's not half as great Christian as me, or that group of Christians over there, well, they're not like us. They don't believe. Did you hear that they said this in their sermon or their snippet? That's why I don't like that. If I could just get them focused on that, well, look at them. They'll be useless. And the world will begin to say, look at those Christians. That's why we don't like them. That's why we can't respect them. And as we look at Jesus, he realized on his final days what mattered most. And I want to take us into this moment that happens with Jesus and his disciples, literally the day before his arrest. I need you to feel that. He knows his arrest is coming tomorrow. And he walks all of his friends, his best friends, we'll call them the disciples, but in reality is they're his best friends, a group of diverse group of individuals. And he walks them all to this garden. And he gets to the door and he says, hey, I need y'all to just stay put, watch over me. I'm going to walk in here and have some one-on-one time with God. And he goes to this point where he looks up to God and he begins to pray. And scriptures recount this prayer that Jesus was making to his Father. The longest recorded account of Jesus praying in the entire Bible happened in John. And here he is looking up, trying to make sure he could say all that he could say to his Father the day before he knew his arrest was coming. And in this moment, in the crackling of the night, as his best friends are beginning to doze off, and he's looking up to God, and he's crying out of all that's to come because he knows his crucifixion is right around the corner. He makes a statement. He makes a prayer that as we begin to look at, we realize his greatest desire for every single one of us. And in John 17, verse 20, if you got your Bibles, he's looking up, praying to God, and he says this statement right here, and I absolutely love it. He says, my prayer is not for them alone in the dark. Is how so many of you probably feel. It's just me carrying all this weight. He says, no. And this is the statement he says. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be, what's that word? That all of them may be, Father, just as you are in me, I am in you. May they also be in us so that the world may believe that you sent me. I need you to think about that last statement. May they also be in us so that the world may believe. I don't buy the whole Christian thing. Christianity's losing its influence. And Jesus is literally saying as he's praying his prayer for us. Think about this. We have a chance to read Jesus' prayer for us the day before he's taken away. And he said, God, I pray that they may love each other so that they may believe what I actually did here on earth. Because if they can't get past the facts and all their differences, they'll never believe what I gave them. And he goes on to say this right here in the scripture. I've given them the glory that you gave me. I gave it. I got nothing left. This is him saying, I'm done. This is the end of my road. That they may be one as we are one, I and them and you and me. This is absolute poetry. So that they may be brought to complete, what's that word? But they're different. Do you know them? Do you know that organization? Do you know that church? Do you know where they're at? Do you know that their color, they're blue, I'm red? So that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you loved me. Jesus believed in unity so much that he died for it. So when we can't get along, when we want to focus on the things that keep us separate, when we want to say this person is why I can't hang out with them, this person is why I want nothing to do with them, he says, my only prayer for you was that you might have complete unity in me. I'm enough. He said, I'm enough. All that you need is in me. I absolutely love as he's going carried away and his friends wake up and they're seeing their best friend being taken down the road and he knows what's to come. And sure enough, in the night, he's taken, beaten, judged, taken to a cross, carried the cross all the way to his hill, laid across it, nailed to it, lifted up. And in the moonlight, as his body is breaking, as they're looking at him, this darkness begins to fill the land. The Son of Man is being killed. The Son of Man is being crucified. His body losing oxygen. He gets to one final statement. It is finished. And all of heaven stops. Their king crucified on a hill he created for the sake of his children getting along. And the disciples scatter, confused, not sure what's to come. 1 day passes. 2 days pass. 3 days pass. And something happens. The same tomb he was placed in. Well, some ladies showed up. Ladies got to the scene first. And they said, hold on, something's not right. And Jesus comes and has this conversation that sends them back running to his best friends and saying, you won't believe what just happened. And Jesus appears to his best friends in the night as they're huddled up, outlaws, hiding so they won't be killed. And he slides in and they stare in silence at their king, their best friend. Doubters having a chance to touch his nail-ridden hands. And he gives them one simple demand. If you love me, would you love others? Because based how you love each other, they'll see me. They'll believe what's been done. And in that moment, the disciples awakened. And they began to realize what life is really about. And as we sit in the dark, as we sit in a world that they had to walk in to navigate exactly what it was so that we might live in the world we live in today, as they began to realize, okay, now we're beginning to get our bearings correct, I always compare it to a symphony. I used to play in the band, and I would get there early, and I'd always like to hear all the instruments, and all the instruments would be sitting there, all the different players with their different stories, different colors. And as soon as you get there early, they're all kind of playing their own chords. They're playing their own parts. It kind of sounds jumbled, sounds a mess, right? Your eyes are closed just like this. You're like, this sounds terrible. And then what happens? A conductor walks out on the stage, and all this chaos, all this noise, and picks up a baton. And he does tap, tap, tap. And suddenly all their eyes fix. It was just chaos. We weren't on the same page, literally. We are playing our own notes a second ago. But when all of our eyes are fixed on one thing, tap, 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 what happens next? It's the sound of heaven. I think the disciples saw it, and they said, wait a minute. He died so that we might have life. We're the last part of the chapter. It was about me. No, wait. It was about us. Everything he did was for us. Who's us? Well, the Jews. No, wait. This isn't just the Jews. These are people that don't believe. What? Yeah. It's for them too. What? What kind of them? Well, the men, of course. Okay, yeah, all men can draw to God. Yeah. No, wait. I think it's for women too. What? They're not even people. They're property. I know. But I think he died for them as well. Well, how are we supposed to talk to them? As they're one of us. Somebody. It's for all the free people. No, wait. I think it's for the slaves too. What? The slaves? How are we supposed to treat them? When they walk through these doors, there is no master, there is no slave. They're free. We don't see differences anymore. We could care less about the trivial facts of life. We keep our eyes focused on the one thing that matters most. I'm a child of God. You're a child of God. You're a child of God. He didn't just die for you. He died for us to do something. For God so loved the world that he asked us to do the same and put his son on the line for it. It ain't gonna be easy. You'll be tempted to run back to the trivial things when you walk out this door. Trust me, it'll happen. It's something I wrestle with every day. I don't like them. We don't see eye to eye. And in that moment, he whispers, I simply had one prayer for you, Joseph. For me, yes. It's written down to make sure you didn't miss it. Would you love them so they at least can have a chance to know what I did? I know you may not like her or him. I know they may not line up with the way you were raised. I know you might say based on their lifestyle, you can't tell me that I'm supposed to go ahead and be buddy-buddy with them. But next time you look at somebody and you have huge issues, I don't care what part of the world they're in, I don't care what situation you might have heard that they might have done or whatever thing that you know that they struggle with. Remember this. God created them, and God is sustaining them. Think about it. They're still breathing. He's still sustaining them. He's still working in them. Not them. He's still giving them another day. So what do? We give them all we got. We love them, even when it's hard. Even despite our differences. Even when we want to just isolate ourselves and keep it to our own community. Community is not unity. Community is what we can hide behind and say, this is our church. Yeah, our church, wear our t-shirts. Yeah. Unity is saying, what's our church gonna do for that church? How can we make time to get to know them more? Why? Because we're brothers and we're sisters. And as we walk out those doors tomorrow, as we get a chance to love Athens, we remember the scripture. They'll know me based on how you love each other. Who's each other? What? Them? What? Them? And them. And you. And me. And us. Let me pray for y'all. Oh, I'm looking in the room, God. And by your name, we are united. At the mere mention of your name, every knee will bow, every tongue confess. God, to the person in this room who might be struggling with feelings of judgment based on the way that they were raised, tonight I pray you break that chain. To the person who might have been eyes fixed on their own situation and their own perspectives, God, I pray you remind them that keeping their eyes on you is where true hope is found. And God, as we walk out these doors tomorrow, I pray we shine so bright that people say, now that's the church I can believe in. Now maybe I can believe what they say happened a long time ago. What's that? That God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him goes from death to life. I believe it because I see it. May we shine bright, even in moments where we don't have it in us. May you shine through us, and we walk in our calling, understanding it's not about the person, but it's our purpose. In your son Jesus' name, where we draw all the strength, honor, and wisdom, we say together as one, amen. I love y'all.